Good morning, 5th grade. This is your introduction into Play Pause It. This is the online course that you will be taking throughout the year. So you need your book out and open to the first page that says The Long Argument, and you need your notes in front of you. We've already completed the gallery walk. And please note our focus question for the day is, why did the states argue? So by the end of the lesson, you should be able to answer this question. Let's preview our vocabulary before we start reading. The first word is outlaw. That is someone who's done something illegal or a fugitive. And so we would draw a picture to this no symbol because someone has done something illegal. The second one is retaliate. That is when you do something back to someone because they did something mean to you. And you can see this voodoo doll, someone is trying to retaliate by sticking pins into the doll. And then the last one is agriculture. That's related to farming. Draw lines to the pictures that represent the word. Then turn the page in your notes. As you'll notice, our text is about the Civil War. That means it's a non-fiction text. Everything we're going to read in this book is true. And so instead of using CSPS, we are going to use the how or why question strategy. And so we need to first turn the title into a how or why question. So look at your notes. You have an arrow pointing to the title that says The Long Argument. And for 1A, we need to turn that title into a question. And so how the long argument doesn't make sense, why the long argument makes a little more sense. And because we know that this is about the Civil War, we know that the North and the South were, northern and southern states were arguing. So we can use that information to write our question. Why were the states arguing? You can press pause to silently write down your answer in 1A. Press play when you are ready to keep reading. Alright, in order to find the main idea of the article, we are going to underline evidence that answers our how or why question. So as we are reading this paragraph, we want to know, why did the states argue? Take your pencil and point to by the mid-1800s. Follow along and get ready to underline in your book. By the mid-1800s, the issue of slavery had become a major cause of conflict in the United States. Already, I know that conflict is a synonym for argument. And so I know that in the United States, they were arguing over slavery. I'm going to underline that first sentence because it helps me answer my question. Let's keep reading. Slavery had long been outlawed in the industrialized northern states. That means that slavery was illegal in the North. But plantation owners in the agricultural South depended on slave labor. So in the South, they needed the slaves to pick their crops. In the 1850s, fighting broke out between settlers in pro-slavery Missouri and their anti-slavery neighbors in Kansas. So these neighboring states, one of them, Missouri, wanted slavery, and their neighbor, Kansas, did not. Missouri border ruffians rode across the state line to murder anti-slavery men. Kansas fighters, called Jayhawkers, retaliated. Eventually, the U.S. Army was called out to take control. Some pro-slavery supporters called for southern states to leave the Union, a process known as secession. In the years before the Civil War, these supporters of the secession campaign were known as fire eaters. All right, so now I'm going to go back over and look at what I underlined. I underlined that the issue had become a major cause of conflict. The issue of slavery had become a major cause of conflict in the United States because the North outlawed slavery and the South depended on it. So I'm going to press pause and silently write down the main idea. The states argued over the issue of slavery because the northern states outlawed slavery and the South depended on it. Press pause to silently write down your answer and play when you are ready for number 2. Nonfiction texts have a lot of text features. Text features help the reader make sense of the text. A text feature is the title. It could also be pictures, subheadings, and captions. The text features in this text are labeled for you. Press pause and silently write them down in 2A. Other text features not in this text include like talk bubbles, thought bubbles, text boxes, diagrams, or maps. You can press pause to write down 2 or 3 of those. If you didn't catch all of those, you can press the back button to rewind and re-listen. Press pause to silently write down your answer. And then number 3 asks us, what do you notice about the pictures? And so as I'm thinking aloud, looking over 2 of these pages, I know that some of the pictures are in black and white and some of the pictures are in color. I also notice that the pictures are different sizes. I'm going to silently write that down in 3A. Some of the pictures are black and white while others are in color. Some pictures are small while other pictures are large. Silently write that down for 3A. Press pause and then you can press play when you're ready. And 3B says, why might the author do that? Well, I'm noticing that this picture is in color on the top of the second page and it's really large. This must be an important event that shows how the states were arguing or what they were arguing about. So we could say the author uses large or colored pictures to draw the reader's attention to the main idea. Press pause to write down your answer and play when you are ready for number 4. It says an anti-slavery slogan. That means I need to find that subheading on the page. It's in the top left-hand corner. And it says, what did slave owners believe about slaves? So I need to read this caption to figure out the answer. It says, Americans who hated slavery formed organizations to try to end it. One group's slogan was the question, am I not a man and a brother? These groups tried to force slave owners to admit that slaves were not farm property, but people like themselves. After reading this, I know that if people try to get slave owners to admit that slaves were not farm property, but actually people, that means that the slave owners believed that slaves were farm property and that they were not actually people. Press pause to write down your answer for 4A and play when you are ready for 4B. What is the author trying to communicate about slaves? In this picture and caption, the author is trying to communicate that slaves are people, that they are not farm property like the slave owners believed. And we know that because there's a picture of a slave with the slogan around the bottom that says, am I not a man and a brother? So the author is trying to communicate that slaves were men and brothers of the slave owners. Press pause to write down your answer and play when you are ready for the paragraph. The paragraph states, why did the states argue? How does the author use text features to communicate his message? And so we can use our answers in box number 1 and box number 3 to answer the paragraph. We even have quotes from the text underlined to support our answer for race. Silently write down your paragraph and then get ready to change stations.